The first topic for today is green prescription. Case vignettes of clinician-led silent strolls teaching nature connection and mental health skills. I think we can all agree that we need a little bit of nature, more nature in our lives, living in Johannesburg, a concrete jungle. So I want to introduce you to our phenomenal speaker. Penni Cox, called a flying psychologist by Doctors Without Borders, has worked all over the world as a mental health professional. She has worked with individuals and teams from Afghanistan to New York, from adolescents in private clinics to the top female dignitaries retreat hosted by the UN Deputy Secretary General. She is happily occupied with supporting any individual or team in their mental health journey of self-awareness and growth. And after 20 years in this business, is proud to be formally collaborating with nature, who through her own admission is the better therapist. She is the founder and lead psychologist of Alive Eco Journeys, a TEDx speaker, and if it isn't evident yet, a people's person. So welcome, Penni Cox. Penni, sorry to disturb your engrossment in the plant there, but we actually need you to present a talk right now.
No, Tasneem, you're actually wrong. These are silent strollers here with me. We're actually all on a silent stroll together. You can join us. Yeah, come and join us. Hello, everybody. You are silent strollers here with me today. And so we are walking in nature. And so what I'd love you to do for a moment is just to take in the slightly pixelated forest. Do you know that this forest that we're walking in at the moment, if you take a nice deep breath in through your nose and out your mouth, you are breathing in phytoncides, and these are chemicals that are boosting your immunity. Do you know that when you're looking at this beautiful green, your eyes take in the most color when they're looking at green? And they're designed that way. That's why we're seeing so many good things, recovery and lowered blood pressure and all these things. We're seeing that as a result of looking at green and green spaces. Do you know there's this thing called the Wood Wide Web? The Wood Wide Web, which is where the roots are all connected and the trees communicate to each other, giving each other nutrients, warning each other of any dangers. And so there's this interconnectivity in nature. And so as we walk through this forest, these are the benefits that we're already starting to get without even trying. And so we'll stop with the silent stroll. But this is the presentation on case vignettes of silent strolls that I've been running, and it's such a privilege to be here. My name is Penni Cox, and I'm a counseling psychologist. I'm also a ecotherapy nature connection practitioner. So, did you know that in nature, if you walk for 90 minutes, your rumination, negative thinking cycles will be significantly decreased. We see this on scans. It's in the prefrontal cortex that there's a lower amount of rumination. As well, if we think about it, when you're out in nature, you become so fascinated. You look and you start to kind of lose yourself a bit, right? It's called soft fascination. And what that does is it restores your directed attention. So the attention in front of the computer, where we're all getting stuck and you can't focus, just looking out into nature is what's going to start to restore that directed attention in your mind. And as well, of course, we know that walking in nature, it elevates our mood. And so it's a natural mood booster, serotonin, the sun on our skin. So already, colleagues, we are seeing 3 things that nature is impacting without us doing anything. It's impacting rumination, it's impacting attention, and it's impacting mood. And so if we think about symptoms of many of the illnesses that we're diagnosing patients with, we know that there is these three things that are present: depression, anxiety disorders, even burnout. And so the power of nature is something significant and that we need to be talking about. But first, those that are further in front, you will see that you had a little kind of stone prick into your backside. It says alive on it. Now, this is the otter stone. Did you know that otters, they actually love to juggle stones? So they lie on their back and they juggle stones. And they love stones so much because they like to break things open. They use it as a tool, that they keep these stones under their legs, under their armpits. They've got a little flap, and they just keep their favorite stone there. Isn't that cute? So at Alive Eco Journeys, we have otter stones, where at the end of the journey, we write that thing that we want to hold on to, right? That tool that we're going to take away and really take into our lives. So I'm hoping that you're going to take those stones, you're going to hold on to them. It says alive, that you're going to put them on your desk, and that I'm hoping to inspire you to come alive with this idea of prescribing more nature for your patients. And so, yes, I have, as you heard in my bio, I've had the most beautiful career. I felt so blessed by my career because I have had the fortune of traveling a lot as a humanitarian psychologist. And so I've worked in many cultures and groups at a very grassroots level. I've also worked with top dignitaries in the UN. And so I feel like I've seen the spectrum, of different ways that mental illness or mental health shows up in society. And, the one thing is true. Out of all of them, no matter if it's a woman in the slums in Pakistan or if it's up in the UN somewhere, the same requests are made to me as a psychologist for these things: for care, for connection, and for coping skills. And so this is really what us, I guess, as professionals, as mental health professionals, as healthcare professionals, we're needing to impart some form of care in whichever way we're trained to do, to form some kind of connection with our patients and with our clients and help them to feel connected, and also to impart them with something that's going to make or help them cope better. But of course, in working with all of these people, I also noticed the opposite of that. I noticed these things creeping more and more into people's lives: isolation, disconnect, and numbness. And, we know that in this modern age, and even perhaps for some of us sitting here, we can attest to this experience internally. And, there's many reasons for it, right? Technology, hey? So many screens, right, is really fueling a lot of this. The busyness of life, the stress of actually keeping up with everything, the information overload, like we're experiencing a war, how many thousands of miles away. And so just having to process so much trauma and information all the time, just everyday life is breeding this, just in the everyday person. And then we've got, of course, mental and physical illness. And the WHO says there's no health without mental health. It's the same, it's just a different side of a coin, right? And so, you have physical illness, you've got a mental health component, and vice versa very often. And so we see this in showing up more and more. Sadly, the stat now, according to SADC, is that 23 people a day are committing suicide in South Africa. It's chilling. I've got 23 people, and they say that 10 attempts per person. So essentially, 230 people a day are attempting to end their lives. I get tearful thinking of that stat. It's very real, and it's very evident of isolation, disconnect, and numbness. And then, of course, we've seen relational breakdown. So more and more with all the pressures of life, we're seeing in families, they're disconnected, they're not talking to each other. We're seeing our partners that, relationships are becoming more difficult because we're not necessarily managing our stress. And so you can see that in all of these things, whether it's a diagnosis of depression, anxiety, or whether it's the relational breakdown, at the core of it, what I've noticed is isolation, disconnect, and numbness come into play. And so, I had that same experience myself, where I had isolation, disconnect, and numbness. And it happened over here. I was in Canada. This is Montreal. I was on holiday. I came back from 2 weeks of holiday. I should have been fine, eh? I came back. I opened my computer to join online a remote session, and the internet didn't work. And just like the internet didn't work and went offline, it sent me offline. I experienced, as many of you will know, this thing of derealization. You know that feeling of, I can see what's going on, but I don't feel part of it anymore. My system had become so overloaded with stress and overwhelm, and I was in full-blown burnout. Despite all the coping skills I was using, I found myself not able to function, not able to even send an email. And so immediately, thankfully, I was working in a team of psychologists, so I was very cared for, and I was given the time to go and recover. And something really struck me. I was working for the United Nations at that time. Something really struck me. I had been working with many clients or colleagues that were going through burnout. But after a month of my recovery, for some reason, it seemed more robust. I was able to kind of tap back into work much quicker than many that I had seen go along this journey. And I thought to myself, either that means I'm really not a very good psychologist, or there's something that happened in my recovery. And there were two key things. The first was that I had a backpack of mental health skills because I was teaching them. So I could draw on meditation, I could draw on the worry window. But then I also immersed myself in nature. So I went and I forest bathed. I went and sat in the forest for a long time. I went and lay on that beach and floated in the water. And I invited two sweet little animals into my life. Now, the most mindful animals are rabbits, eh? Because look how they eat. They take one pellet, chew, 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 chew. One pellet, chew, 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 chew. So they're very sweet, and they kind of, to bond with them, you have to be in contact with them. And so it forced me to this very mindful space. So I had this whole month of nature connection. And so when I came back and I felt strong again, I saw this boardroom that I was working in. I was teaching mental health skills with PowerPoints and interactive games. And I just became so disillusioned. I said to myself, I don't want to talk about mental health. I want to live it. I want us to feel well-being, not talk about it in our heads. And so I started to take people and teams and colleagues out into nature. That's Central Park, that we went to Italy there. That's in Victoria Falls, so by the Zambezi River. There you can see they all got their shoes off. And I didn't tell them. I said, I'm taking my shoes off. Well, they didn't need any convincing, eh? And it was so beautiful. They started to interact. They were doing some really serious conversations, but I could just see immediately the difference between inside and outside. And so I was hooked. And so I've come back to South Africa just over a year ago because, of course, South Africa has the best nature, hey? And so I came back to start Alive Eco Journeys. And the whole premise of Alive Eco Journeys is to find yourself outdoors. Find, literally, in outdoors, but also, where am I in life? Find yourself. It's based on eco-psychology principles. And eco-psychology says that there are these three main elements to well-being. They say it's a connection between nature, it's a connection between your ecological self, that part of you, that experiences awe and expansion and rest and ease when we're in nature, and a connection to, they say, society, and at Alive Eco Journeys we say a kind community. And so anything that we're doing in Alive Eco Journeys has these three elements, so that we can start to foster this reconnection and really address this numbness, isolation, and this disconnect. And so as we build it, we draw from the World Health Organization that, of course, says that nature is the ultimate foundation of human health and that it's a vital resource to physical and mental health. So it's increasingly getting more and more attention, but from a clinical practice perspective, not just a nice thing to do. And of course, they've had green prescriptions in all these different countries. They're starting to prescribe formally nature as part of the treatment plan for patients and clients. Some of them are in pilot studies, some of them like New Zealand. That one's New Zealand over here. New Zealand started in 1982 prescribing nature. Can you believe it? I was born in 1982. So green prescriptions are my age. Don't be rude, eh? No, I'm teasing. Okay, so that's the origin of green prescriptions. And of course, this is the Shinrin-yoku in Japan and South Korea, which is the ever increasingly famous forest bathing, where we're not bathing in actual water, but we're bathing in the atmosphere. And so they started that, funnily enough, also in 1982. So it's quite a year. The United States, there's certain states that are issuing books for passes to parks, national parks, as part of their treatment. Canada is also doing some experimental groups. And of course, England, I've just read an article which was really interesting. From the Mail and Guardian, called Massive Boost of Serotonin, How a Dose of Nature is Treating Mental Illness. And I just took the quote. A Dose of Nature, which is the name of this organization in London, just outside London, has already delivered 1,500 one-to-one courses, and it's outperforming standard NHS talking therapies, boasting a recovery rate of 64%, compared with the health services 50%, and a reliable improvement rate of 86% compared with 69%. Unlike most green social prescribing schemes, clients are referred directly by their GPs. Our nature prescriptions are a genuine alternative to medication and more traditional psychological therapies. So it's really interesting what we're starting to see in these different programs. And I'm a huge contender of both and, right? I don't think we need to choose either or. But there's something really powerful that's starting to surface about incorporating nature in the recovery of our clients. And so, I'm kind of out there calling South Africa to be lacquer. And for us also to continue to build this idea with people that are recovering from illness and from mental health illness and just everyday stresses, how can we really be proponents and advocates for them to get into nature? And so in Alive Eco Journeys, what we've started to do is what we call the silent stroll. Okay, so our silent stroll is what we have stumbled upon. And when I first put it out there for people to join, I was very excited because I got 29 people signing up. I can only take 8 to 12 people maybe. And so I was thrilled, and it was a free offering. I said, come, let's just try this out. And then I thought, well, let me be cheeky the following months, and let me put it out there again in Johannesburg for people to come on the silent stroll. Can you believe that I got 162 people signing up? And so they were on the waiting list. So, of course, we had to run a few more silent strolls than that. But it just showed me about the immense appetite and hunger for people to get out into nature. Of course, we know in Johannesburg and in South Africa in general, there are so many barriers in our own minds and also realistically to be okay in nature. And so there's something very powerful about a group opportunity as well. And so these silent strolls have just been such a blessing. They've been so nurturing and nourishing to me, which is also a gift because as a psychologist that has been through burnout myself, to experience some kind of therapeutic intervention where I feel nourished at the end, along with my clients or my patients, really is a true gift. And so what is a silent stroll? Well, I say to the people that come along, there are 3 whammies. So now you might be a solo whammier, a double whammier, or a triple whammier. The first whammy is you've got to put your cell phones away. So you can't take photos. I'll take a few photos. You can't take photos. You can't turn off the watches, technology away. The second whammy is that you've got to walk in silence for 90 minutes. And so some people joke. They usually call the person out. They're like, oh, yeah, you're never going to do it. And then the third whammy, which is sometimes the hardest part, is that we walk really slowly. So this is how we walk. It drives people crazy. They literally, sometimes they're pushing in front of me and I'm like, you know? And so it's therapeutic. I say to them at the beginning, they're going to be confronted with a lot of things in themselves. And so, but it's amazing to see that over time, how nature just takes over. And I always know, I know when people are getting into it because they start to do this with their hands. It's interesting. It's not official, but I'm observing it. There's this gesture that happens where people start to put their hands behind them and they're just like in Wonderland. It's the most incredible thing to watch, to see how people and how nature, who is definitely my co-therapist, just starts to soothe these systems. I say to people, you can come any way you want. Come skeptical, grumpy, happy, excited. Doesn't matter. We're going to do this. And so the whole idea is that, you know, for me, I recognize that there are two places that are so key and important that people aren't always accessing. They're not always accessing a psychologist in a room. It's too much money for them or it's too scary for them. So they're not accessing necessarily robust mental health skills. And on the other side, they're not accessing the beautiful nature connection techniques. They're using nature as a backdrop, not as a companion. And, you know, sometimes it looks a bit woo-woo, you know, like the six-day silent retreat. Hey, it's a bit much. So we get a bit put off that. So there's this whole pool of people in the middle that are missing out on this. And this is where I'm occupying. I'm interested in how can we help the everyday person to combine this beautiful interaction of mental health skills and nature connection. So that's where we play. And so through the walks, they walk in silence, but I teach them key nature connection activities. I invite them to actually go out and not in. So it's a bit opposite to what most of us say, right, as psychologists. We're like, listen, you've been inside of yourself for a long time. It's quite difficult in there. Let's go out. Because when we start to soothe and regulate, then the insights come and the processing starts to happen. We always meet at the end as a group and we have a quick chat because there's that community aspect and witnessing each other. And that's what's just been so beautiful to me, is to see the tremendous insights and shifts that come from this 90 minutes. Remember 90 minutes, rumination? 90 minutes of a silent stroll, which sometimes I don't know if I would have gotten actually in a therapy room in an hour. And so the other beautiful thing is that there's some kind of trigger that happens where they're inspired to do it more. So they don't necessarily come back. We do have repeat visitors, but I get these messages. Hey, you know, people like to tell me, which is fun. Hey, we're out in nature now, we're doing this, you know, and so there's something, it's not kind of rocket science. It's just a trigger, just a reminder of this beautiful, nourishing mental health resource that's available to us. And, you know, when we're out in nature, there are kind of three things that happen that work with people in terms of their state. The first one, of course, is just the regulation of the body. You know, we know that it regulates our systems, that, like I mentioned, it lowers our cortisol levels, lowers blood pressure, it boosts immunity. All of this is really evidenced. And then the other one is that it creates metaphors for us. And so, you know, like this bee sleeping there. Now, did you know there's a saying that there's busy bees, you're a busy bee. But now, did you know for bees to be busy, they need at least 5 to 8 hours of sleep? Have you ever thought of a bee sleeping? Bees need 5 to 8 hours of sleep for their cognitive functioning, believe it or not, and also so that they can perform what they call the waggle. Have you heard the word waggle before? Now, a waggle is this kind of movement that they do with their abdomen to indicate to other bees where the food is. So it's a prime thing. They need to be able to waggle. But now for a bee to function with its brain and in its waggling, then it needs 5 to 8 hours of sleep. So now, isn't that a beauty? And did you know this? This is very cute. that bees take little power naps in flowers in the day. So this is an example of a metaphor. And when we go out there, people always will find a metaphor. They'll be drawn to the story that they need to start processing on. So I did work with someone. They came back from a silent stroll with this whole bee. They said, I'm sure that bee was sleeping there, And they didn't sleep a lot. So we worked with that. A lady the other day really was struck by the bamboo and the sections in the bamboo, how it was going from really old to this beautiful new fresh growth. And she was working on making some life decisions of change. So metaphors are very powerful. And then finally, of course, nature can be quite confrontative. It can kind of mirror something to us. And so what I see on silent strolls is that people are being confronted by their busyness and how fast they're moving. That's a very common thread. This realization, my word, I really struggle to switch off and stop, And just that revelation is so powerful because it's an embodied revelation, not me or you saying you really need to slow down, right? And so the reflections can be quite confronting, but when held can be incredibly therapeutic towards just creating a shift towards health. And so we've had now over about, I'd say just over 80 people come on silent strolls with us. And all ages, from all walks of life. It's been such a pleasure to meet all these people, and they've stayed in touch. They're part of the silent stroll community. And they tell me about the silent strolls that they go on. You're going to recognize a few people here. That was a speaker yesterday. That's your one and only Tasneem that's just introduced us. And so that group was for entrepreneurs, for visionaries. So we themed them. But then I had families say, listen, we want to go on a silent stroll, but we can't keep the kids quiet. So there was a need for the kids. So we had a not-so-silent stroll, was what it was called. And they came along. Oh, it was amazing. Because when you start to spark children, the adults get sparked as well. And these kiddies were totally into it. They listened to their own heartbeats and the heartbeats of their families. And then we went into nature to discover the heartbeat of nature. So we're trying to find out, how does nature's heartbeat work? And we made beautiful pictures in the soil. And we had, the youngest one was 9 months old, learning about getting out in nature. And so it was just such a beautiful experience seeing these families come together. And so let me tell you a few stories about some of our silent strollers. So this little guy, he was so cute. And he was like, shy behind mommy's legs, right? And the more we started to walk, it just became that curiosity just overtook him, because we had magnifying glasses, you see. So now we're really studying nature. And Mom said to me that afternoon that she was frustrated with the TV remote control. And this little guy, about 3 or 4 years old, this little guy, he says, Mom, I think you need to go outside and stand on the grass and take a breath. And so I said to her, that's amazing. Like, he's absorbed this, But also, I'm so sorry. I'm sure that's not what you want to hear all the time when you're frustrated. Go outside and take a breath, right? But actually, it just shows you how quickly these kids learn that. And this beautiful mom and daughter, that's Caitlin and her daughter, they came on the family silent stroll. And I noticed they were kind of just in the background the whole time walking, And I got such a beautiful testimony from them, and they've all given me permission to share this, just about the reconnection with her preteen, that they really had a special process together. She said that it brought them together. She said her daughter said, thank you so much for bringing me here. And now they want to go and connect in nature again. So there's something that sparks. It just sparks something. And what I've noticed is that it continues. It's almost like a rerouting that I see happening. So here's some more. Being immersed in nature without devices and without talking was the ideal set for the brain to process, let go, and become clear again. I was walking through a forest when I would have been sitting in peak traffic and then got to drive home on a clear road. So here we have our lady in the middle. Tasneem, can we ask you, what was it like for you? Oh, you got one.
Yes, actually, while you were talking about showing the pictures of the families and all of that, for some reason, I kind of felt a bit emotional. I don't know why. Yes, it was amazing. And so for me, to not talk is a big thing because I am a chatterbox. I mean, my parents, even as a teenager, gave me slippers, Little Miss Chatterbox, because I always was a talker. And then also not to have devices was also a big thing for me. So I think it was the external accountability and the permission to not have those things. And just being with other people also, experiencing the same thing. I will admit in the beginning it's kind of weird because you walk slowly and then you saw the picture with the lady hugging the tree where you stand against a tree and it feels weird in the beginning, but after a while you kind of get used to it. Because we're not used to it. We're used to sitting at our desks and sitting in our cars and in our kitchens and, and I actually remember what my metaphor was. I don't know if you can remember, but there was that water and I was throwing stones in the water, and I said that my reflection was I was noticing that when you throw a stone in the water, it ripples. And when you throw another one, it ripples, and the ripples kind of like go over each other. And my reflection was how, like in life, people's ripples, like they go over each other, but the one ripple doesn't interfere with the other ripple. The ripple continues. They just kind of go across each other and form this pattern. And that metaphor for me was like quite powerful about how you are your own ripple, but you can coincide with others, and other people's lives don't have to like totally disrupt yours. You need to find like some kind of a harmony in like the way the water. Yeah, so that was it. And I really would love to go again. I actually, because as a mental health occupational therapist, I actually, send when she announces Silent Strolls, I actually send to my clients because a lot of them I feel also could benefit from just going out and experiencing nature and slowing down and all of those things.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Tasneem. And I remember you were going to give a talk the next day, and suddenly you found your topic, with those ripples. So, yeah, it's by no means to say refer to Silent Strolls. It's just to inspire you to think of how can you incorporate more of this idea of getting patients and clients into nature. And to your point, I think especially in Johannesburg, these kind of organized experiences are more powerful because it feels safer, it's more contained. And so this is Mark. Mark is a brilliant entrepreneur and someone we know very well. He is up to a lot of amazing things, building, supporting small businesses, and is working all the time. And Mark, because he was working so hard and giving so much to everyone, he developed glandular fever. He became really unwell. And so he was in this recovery from glandular fever. And because he knows me, he said to me the only reason he actually ended up coming on the Silent Stroll is because he said he had come, but he wasn't feeling good. And Mark's testimony was quite powerful because he says that it was after the Silent Stroll that he started to feel his body recover, and so you started to feel that energy and that healing starting to come back, and this for me was quite significant because again that's what I'm noticing is that it's a reset, right? It's reminding people just about reminding them how their body can feel when they let go of this intensity and these strains and the stress, and there's something that kind of clicks, and you find that they start to return more and more to this kind of mental health resource, nature. That gentleman over there was on a longer experience with us for a day, but we did a silent stroll, and he said that the silent stroll was the most interesting for him. You can see he really got into it. And to Tasneem, she says, hugs tree. I never tell people to hug trees, ever. But I just tell them to go and observe trees. I'm like, just go observe them. And then within about a minute, everyone's like, hi, tree. It's really funny. It's like they just draw you in, and people are like, they look around, they're like, okay, I'm going to give it a go. And there's actually something pretty cool about leaning against such a solid thing in nature. They're very powerful. So you can see he really got into it. He took his shoes off. And what I've noticed as well is that it's the men that come on the silent strolls that really seem to have very powerful breakthroughs. We're really generalizing now, but I think women sometimes they're kind of a bit more open into the process space. But the men, when they come, there seems to be just really significant breakthroughs. So men always say to me quite often, oh, nature's my therapist, right? They don't want to come see me like, as a psychologist in an office. They're like, no, nature's my therapist. I go mountain biking. So I'm like, cool, let's go there, right? Let's go there. Let's go into nature and collaborate with nature. And the results really speak for themselves. So yeah, lots of beautiful case vignettes, lots of beautiful people. Benazir said it felt like finally taking a breath after holding it for too long. Arisha said the silent stroll taught me to let nature heal me and to slow down. And so just a few examples of some of our silent strollers that have come along. And so really what I am seeing is this beautiful truth that eco-psychology is telling us about how healing really does start to occur when we support people to be in connection with themselves, with the ecological self, that kind of really wild, authentic part of themselves, right? Before all the shoulds, because in nature there are no shoulds. So before the shoulds, before the pressure, just coming back to self. And when they're connecting with nature in a way, like I say, where they're not using it as a backdrop, but where they're actually starting to really engage with this beautiful force. And of course, when they're connecting with people that are on the same page, right, where there's kindness, there's generosity, there's openness, where they can come and go through something together. This beautiful mixture is something that I'm seeing is really quite powerful. And yeah, I really hope to inspire you, colleagues sitting here, in whichever way that you work with people, that you'd keep that in mind, like how can I incorporate nature into what I'm prescribing? I will do backflips if one day I see actually on prescription pages nature, like actually written, not just a good idea, because that's literally what a green prescription is. It's a formalized writing that this is so good for you that I'm actually prescribing it as part of your recovery. And I can almost guarantee that it's only going to benefit your already treatment plan with your patients and your clients. And so, yeah, we're seeing beautiful impact. This, can you believe, is in the middle of Sandton, eh? This is in Barbecue Downs, just by Sunning Hill. This is where I go often with people to silent strolls. I was there 2 days ago with a client, and we were enjoying this beautiful scene. So I'll bring it back to you. We started off by all going on a silent stroll together. And so I'm going to end off with you and just ask you as well, because, yeah, we got patients, and we got clients, but we've also got ourselves. And maybe you need a metaphorical power nap in a flower. Or maybe you need to be inspired by the tree and the interconnectivity of the roots, and just where can you find nourishment again amongst friends and colleagues. Or perhaps you actually need a bit of an immunity booster. You're not feeling great, and you need to kind of just feel a bit revitalized again. So my invitation to you is not only to inspire your clients and your patients to go into nature, but yourself as well. And so that rock, that otter stone that says come alive, I hope that you keep it. Put it in your bag, hold it in your hand, put it on your desk, just as a reminder of how can I start to incorporate this in my life and that of my patients. And with that, I'd love to invite you on a silent stroll. So we have one going on Saturday at the Wilds. It starts at 7 o'clock, it ends at 9 o'clock. We've got 5 slots available, and I'd love to have you as my guest. And so if you're able to make it, if that's something you'd like to do, please do, just on the flyer, there's my cell phone number. Just drop me a message and just say silent stroll, or just say you want to come to the Wilds. So there are 5 slots, so I'm just going to take the first people, 5 or 6 slots, first people that can make it. 7 o'clock at the Wilds on Saturday for 2 hours. We're together. So please, I'd love to have you. It would be my absolute privilege to go walking with you. And yeah, the hope is that you will find yourself outdoors where mental health and nature play. Thank you so much. This is a code you can scan if you want to be in a newsletter and hear about all our activities. It comes through once a month. And of course, that's the flyer there that's on your chair. And yeah, please do take it along, and I hope to hear from you. It would be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we give a round of applause? We have time for 1 or 2 questions. Does anybody have a question? No questions? Oh, we have one over there.
Thank you so much for such an interesting presentation. Just one question I have. You talked of the triple whammy. I'm just interested in knowing, what do you think benefit people or patients the most? You mentioned that there are no cell phones, so they have to work quite slowly and also connect with the nature. So amongst those three pillars, do you think, is it maybe not a question of us escaping the busy city life and just going back to our roots where everything started back then? Like, or do you think those three pillars, they work as a combo, and that's where we benefit maybe from reconnecting with nature?
Thank you. It's a lovely question. And you got me thinking, which one's the most important? And I can't decide. I think it's a combo deal, because even if we're walking slowly and we're walking with our cell phones like this, we're not recovering, right? If we're walking fast but we don't have cell phones, we're on such a mission to get somewhere, we're not taking in the nature. And so I think it's that combination which is really powerful. And then also in addition, the drawing out. So that's why I teach people nature connection skills as we walk, to draw them out of their minds, because otherwise they go into that rumination, just draw them out, and then they start to kind of ease. But what I loved what you said is about, it really is coming back to our roots. And I think that's why what I'm seeing is that people get it straight away. They're awkward at first, and then they're like, no, man, this feels weirdly normal and natural, because it's our roots. It's coming back to what we're designed to do. And so just to appreciate and connect with our environment in this way. Yeah. So sorry, I can't give you one.
Thank you. And I think also, just from a sensory point of view, the grounding. Yes. There is a technique in psychology with the rumination is to, what do you see, what do you feel, what do you hear, what do you touch, what do you taste? The grounding experience brings you into reality. So I think that's also part of it, right?
Yeah. And what's also interesting, talking to nature, whether it's the trees or the bees, someone will interpret that as, you've been crazy. But I found that quite amusing.
Yeah.
When someone will talk to
Hilarious.
that tree, or would even give it a name, or call it a friend. And how's that experience? I would love to go through that.
So also, again, I don't give any direct instructions. So I don't tell people to do anything. I just go and hang out by the tree, observe it, imagine what it's been through in life, And so it's really how they come away with these stories from nature that relate to their own life. And when we've got a picture, like I now can think of the bee, and I'm busy like the bee and I need sleep, suddenly it's kind of easier to process than me now talking to someone about my sleep and my sleeping patterns, So this beautiful imagery and these metaphors that people start to pick up become very powerful to actually shift people into better health decisions. And yes, the grounding, absolutely. So it's the 5 senses, that dialectical behavior therapy technique, right? And so that's just known. It's a key technique to work with panic attacks, anxiety disorders. It's the number one skill to teach. And so it's an example of embodying the skill now versus teaching it. And that's what's so powerful. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we give her another round of applause?
Thanks, everyone. Please do come on Saturday if you're free. I'd love to have you.